Welcome to the deep dive, where we take your sources, articles, notes, research, and really dig into them to pull out the key insights.
That's right. And today, we're tackling a novel that seems to have really grabbed people. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of reviews, some pretty in-depth discussions people have shared.
And our mission, basically, is to walk through this really intricate plot, get into the heads of these, frankly, complex characters.
Uncover the big insights, the twists that make it so gripping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we'll even touch on some bits that maybe left reviewers scratching their heads or, feeling a bit critical. It's not straightforward.
No, definitely not. And you can tell how much it pulls readers in. One person we looked at said they read it in just 2 days. Stayed up till the wee hours, they said.
Wow. That tells you something, doesn't it?
It really does. So let's dive in and figure out why.
Okay, so let's set the stage. The premise, right from the description. 15-year-old Ellie Mack. Perfect daughter, golden child.
Had this amazing summer vacation planned.
And then just gone.
Yeah.
Vanished.
10 years zip by. Her mom, Laurel Mack, is still just trying to exist, really. Her life's kind of stalled.
Yeah, her marriage ended years ago. And it says the last clue in Ellie's case was unearthed just months before the main action starts. So it's still raw.
But then something shifts. She meets this guy, Floyd, in a cafe. Seems charming.
Right. And the real kicker, his young daughter, Poppy. When Laurel meets her, she's just floored.
Because she looks exactly like Ellie.
The resemblance is uncanny. And that just throws everything into question again, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Suddenly it's not a cold case anymore. It feels immediate.
And the reviewers really picked up on that intensity. They call it a really strong mystery. So many twists, hard to put down.
Though they also warn it's pretty dark.
Definitely dark. Praise for being raw, even exposing cruelty. But the writing style itself is described as, enchanting. Makes you need to know what happens next.
It sounds like one of those books that just hooks you right from the start, even with the dark undertones.
Totally.
Yeah.
It grabs you with the mystery of Ellie, but you quickly sense there's more going on beneath the surface. It's not just if they find out, but the how and the why.
And a huge part of that hook has got to be the characters. They sound incredibly complicated. Let's start with Laurel, the mom.
Okay, Laurel.
Yep.
After Ellie disappears, her life just falls apart. Understandably.
Yeah, marriage crumbles. She can't really connect with her other 2 kids, Hannah and Jake. Just going through the motions, keeping only the essentials. You get the depth of that loss.
Absolutely. Total devastation. But then there are these other aspects to her character that reviewers found, controversial.
Like the intrusive thoughts.
Exactly. Thinking, sometimes, that she wished it had been Hannah, her living daughter, who disappeared instead of Ellie. Constantly comparing them.
Oof, that's harsh. Judging Hannah, seeing her as less than Ellie.
Yeah, and one reviewer explicitly called that treatment wholly unacceptable. Even the fact she snooped through Hannah's things while supposedly cleaning for her.
Even though Hannah was paying her to clean.
Right. But, the book does show her journey. She eventually has this realization, apologizes to Hannah, stops seeing her as leftovers.
Still, it makes her a tricky character to root for sometimes, doesn't it? You feel for her grief, but...
But she's not always likable. A lot of complaining, clinging to things she can't change, and crucially, ignoring some pretty big red flags about Floyd.
Ah, yes, Floyd. We'll definitely circle back to him. But what about Ellie herself? The girl who vanished?
Ellie, the perfect child, right? Golden girl, everyone loved her.
But even she wasn't just that. Apparently she admitted feeling competitive with Hannah for their mom's attention.
Adds a little layer, doesn't it? Makes her feel a bit more real than just this perfect image.
And then the early twist about her tutor, Noelle Donnelly.
Yeah, this tutor was, inappropriate is the word used. Showering Ellie with gifts, getting way too personal. And crucially, Ellie was last seen at Noelle's house.
So you think, okay, maybe Noelle is involved somehow.
Right. But one reviewer pointed out the real core mystery isn't actually who took Ellie. We kind of suspect Noelle early on. It's the why she was taken and how she ended up dead. That's the deeper puzzle.
Okay, so it delves into the specifics of what happened after she disappeared.
Exactly. And it's grim. She's drugged at Noelle's, kept there, never leaves.
God, and she realizes what's happening.
Yeah, she's smart. She even recognizes she's developing Stockholm Syndrome, tries to escape, but fails.
That's brutal. And then there's this letter she apparently wrote.
Oh, yeah. The letter found in a donated book says she holds nothing against her family, tells them not to worry.
Which sounds convenient.
That's what a reviewer thought. Too perfectly wrapped up. They felt it was almost worse, in a way, that Ellie seemed to just accept her fate. Makes you think about what kind of ending feels right in a story this dark.
It really does. This whole tangled situation, Noelle's obsession, Floyd's appearance, Poppy, it's like a web.
Really twisted web. Let's try and untangle it a bit, starting with Noelle, the tutor.
Okay, Noelle, what's your deal?
She's consistently described as just odd. Smells bad, weird mannerisms like craning her neck, makes people uncomfortable.
But she's smart. A math tutor.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
apparently. Comes from a big family, but is a total loner. And here's a key point. The police oversight.
What do you mean?
She was the last person seen with Ellie. She lived right across the street. But because the police dismissed Ellie's case as a runaway,
They never questioned her?
never seriously considered her. A massive, tragic oversight that basically allowed everything else to happen.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so what drove her? What were her motivations?
Deep, deep obsession.
Yeah.
It seems to stem from a couple of things. One, an obsession with an author, Floyd. She slings with him.
The same Floyd.
The very same. She also desperately wants a baby she'd miscarried twice. This desire, combined with this weird possessive love she developed for Ellie.
Leads her to see Ellie as what? A surrogate.
Exactly. A vessel for her perfect baby. It's completely warped.
And that leads to the
The heinous act, yeah. She drugs Ellie, uses donor sperm bought online to inseminate her, locks her in a basement room, all while apparently trying to make Ellie like her, giving her gifts, but also having these wild mood swings.
It's just horrifying. And then Ellie dies.
After giving birth to the baby girl, Poppy, Ellie gets mastitis, an infection, and Noelle just lets her die. Apparently, she'd kind of lost interest after Floyd broke up with her.
Just left her.
Seems so. Which, as one reviewer pointed out, is strange. Why wouldn't an intelligent woman like Noelle, who'd faked other medical things for Ellie before, just get antibiotics? It's a benign infection.
That's a really good question. Doesn't quite add up.
No. And other odd things, like why she waited so long to introduce Poppy to Floyd. And she even broke into Laurel's house to plant Hannah's passport in Ellie's bag to reinforce the runaway story. Took some candlesticks, too, like a souvenir.
Just layers upon layers of manipulation and creepiness.
Totally. Which brings us back to Floyd Dunn and Poppy. The connection that draws Laurel right back into this nightmare.
Right, Laurel meets him in the cafe, finds him dashing, kind, gentle.
And she's been alone for so long, hasn't she? So she falls for him pretty quickly.
But the reviewers saw red flags.
Oh, yeah. So they were flying early on.
Yeah.
He came on really strong, pushed the relationship too fast, introduced her to his kids way too soon. Even Laurel's son and daughter-in-law thought he was odd.
And then there's Poppy, the daughter who looks like Ellie.
Yeah, Poppy. 9 years old, but acts way above her age. This strange, adult-like confidence.
And her relationship with Floyd is weird, too.
Very strange. He treats her like a mini-adult, lets her drink alcohol, stay up late, homeschools her. It's unsettling.
Plus the resemblance to Ellie hanging over everything.
Exactly. And Floyd's initial story about Poppy's mother.
He says Noelle just left Poppy on his doorstep and vanished.
Right. But Laurel digs, discovers Noelle was Ellie's tutor, and then the full, dark truth comes out. Noelle, apparently in a rage, eventually told Floyd the truth.
Yeah.
That Poppy isn't his genetic child, or hers. The Poppy's mother was a girl named Ellie, and her father, a turkey baster.
Oh, my God. So Floyd finds out.
And what does he do? He strangles Noelle, kills her,
Jesus.
and hides her body in a deep freezer for 5 years.
5 years. With Poppy in the house.
Yep. Before eventually burying her in the backyard, right before he coincidentally meets Laurel.
Unbelievable. So his whole approach to Laurel was calculated.
It seems so. He apparently saw a true crime show about Ellie's disappearance, saw Poppy's resemblance, put two and two together.
And realized Poppy was Ellie's daughter, so he sought Laurel out.
Sought out Poppy's grandmother. He claims he didn't mean to fall in love with Laurel, but realized she could be good for Poppy, give her a connection to her real family.
It's just chillingly manipulative. And how does it all end for him?
Cowardly is how one reviewer put it. He leaves Laurel a letter, a video explaining everything. Tells Poppy that Laurel is her grandmother.
And then?
Kills himself. Wants Poppy to stay with Laurel and her family.
Wow. Just wow. The amount of deception, the obsession, what these characters do to build their idea of a perfect world, it's staggering.
It really is. And if you're listening and thinking, this sounds intense, and you want to unravel all these threads yourself,
you definitely should check out the book. We'll put a link to By Then She Was Gone right there in the episode description. It's worth experiencing firsthand.
Okay, so after all that darkness, all that trauma, we get to the ending, which is interesting.
Yeah, interesting is one word. Reviewers found it both perfect in a way, but also pretty problematic. It's quite a shift from everything before it.
How so? What's the resolution?
Well, on the surface, it wraps up very neatly. Laurel basically becomes Poppy's mother. Her daughter Hannah is thrilled, bonds instantly with Poppy.
Okay.
Laurel's ex-husband and his new wife are supportive. Everyone gets along great. Hannah even ends up marrying Ellie's old high school boyfriend.
Huh. Like a whole new family unit formed from the ashes.
Exactly. Everyone's all together and happy. Plus, Floyd conveniently left them a load of money. And Laurel finally sorts out her issues with Hannah.
Right. So, what's the problem? Sounds kind of nice after all the horror.
That's the critique. Reviewers found it too perfect, unrealistic. One called Poppy a do-over child for Laurel.
Oh, I can see that. Bit too clean.
Yeah. And the forgiveness aspect, especially towards Floyd. Laurel doesn't seem to blame him much for murdering Noelle.
Even though when he killed her, he didn't know the full extent of what Noelle had done to Ellie, did he?
Exactly. But Laurel and Poppy apparently lament that he didn't have to die. It feels like a quick pass for, murder and hiding a body for 5 years.
And speaking of bodies...
That was another huge sticking point for reviewers. Both Noelle and Floyd kept bodies in their home's freezer backyard for years. With a child living there, people found that just unbelievable. Hard to swallow.
Yeah, that stretches credibility quite a bit.
And then there's Poppy herself. This child has been through unimaginable trauma, right? Living with secrets, bodies, losing her biological mother, her abuser captor Noelle, and then her father figure Floyd.
You'd expect some major issues. Attachment, abandonment, behavioral problems.
But apparently, no. She barely notices Floyd's accent, slots into the family perfectly, 0 issues, and just miraculously becomes the perfect child. Again.
So the trauma just evaporates.
Seems like it. Which led reviewers to wish for something messier, more realistic.
Like exploring the actual consequences. Maybe Floyd faces trial, or someone does. Or just showing the nitty-gritty of what it's like for a kid losing parents like that.
Right. Especially since the book did tackle complex emotions earlier with Laurel's grief. Some felt it was unfair that Ellie never really got justice in a conventional sense.
It's a fascinating tension, isn't it? Between wanting a satisfying wrap-up for the characters and wanting something that feels true to the darkness of the story.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But it's worth noting, even with these pretty significant criticisms of the ending,
People still like the book overall.
yeah, overwhelmingly. One reviewer, despite listing these issues, still called it fantastic. Praised the different perspectives, the complicated and unpredictable characters, the core idea, said they could certainly live with the ending as it is.
And another still recommended it as a strong mystery, even with its flaws.
So what's the big takeaway here for you, the listener? Then She Was Gone is clearly a powerful piece of psychological suspense. It shows how secrets, deep-seated desires just unravel everything.
And it definitely sparks this really interesting conversation about what we as readers want from fiction, especially mystery and suspense. Do we want neat resolutions or something closer to messy reality?
Yeah, it poses that question. When the villains are dead and you get this seemingly perfect ending for the remaining characters, does that satisfaction outweigh the need for, say, legal accountability or a more realistic depiction of healing from trauma?
How does that calculation affect your enjoyment of a story like this? It's something to think about.
We've really only skimmed the surface of the twists and turns in Then She Was Gone. If this discussion has piqued your interest at all.
You really should read it. And again, you can find that link to the book right in the episode description.
Absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks so much for tuning in.